Ben Shapiro is bleeding subscribers and views on YouTube at a staggering pace. He's been losing tens of thousands of subs monthly since the October 7th event, while total monthly views have cratered by roughly 85%. Candace Owens replied to this, said, "That's because Ben doesn't actually create any content. He just complains about everyone else's. The market rejects a grown man crying daily about his competition. He's become the, quote, everyone who disagrees with me is Hitler meme." Ben Shapiro is losing his mind. He's losing his sanity. I mean, I don't know if he really ever had much of a mind, much of a backbone, But one thing is for certain now, more than ever before, he's losing his followers. He's losing his views. He's losing his subscribers. People are leaving him in record numbers with good reason, I mean, after how many years of genocide and wars that in no way, shape, or form benefit the American public, the American working class, I'm sure many people in his audience are beginning to ask the question, is this really good for America? Is this really in our interests? Those people asking those sorts of questions, I don't care if they arrive at the correct answer, if they arrive at the conclusions that we've drawn many moons ago, today, tomorrow, yesterday. I just hope that they get there, because America can't move forward if we have lunatics like Ben Shapiro leading our country. And that's what we have right now. We have Ben Shapiro, Laura Loomer, Mark Levin effectively leading our country. And now Ben Shapiro is calling out JD Vance, if you can believe it. So it's not enough for the Ben Shapiros, the Laura Loomers, to have so much control over the White House, over President Trump, that they can persuade him into launching these wars all across the world. If you believe that, there's also the argument that Trump's not being persuaded, and this is all a long-term U.S. plan to try and counter Russia, counter China, encircle them, cut off their resources, which I think that there's a lot of there's a lot of meat to those arguments, but it definitely goes without saying that Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer, these people, they do hold at least very influential positions in terms of the PR spin that the Trump administration is putting on everything. And that's not enough. He's now attacking JD Vance, the vice president of the United States, because why? JD Vance happened to say that I think that Theo Von is a good podcaster. Because Theo Von cries when he thinks about 200,000 Gazan civilians, the poorest people on the face of the earth, being massacred by AI drone technology developed in partnership with the IDF, Una 8200, and Palantir. He's like, that's kind of a bad thing, I think, and I think that this war in Iran really doesn't serve our interests. So now we have Ben Shapiro attacking JD Vance. In our last spotlight, we talked about Saga Metals, trading as SAGMF in the United States and Saga, SAGA in Canada, and their acquisition of another titanium asset in the same district as the world's largest titanium mine. Today, that story is accelerating. Saga Metals just strengthened its position with the aptly named Wolverine project in Labrador. The global energy transition faces a critical bottleneck, a heavy rare earth element monopoly. Many of the elements essential for defense and advanced technology come from unstable or adversarial regions. Saga Metals offer a direct solution with the Wolverine project, a massive 100% owned asset in the safe Tier 1 jurisdiction of Labrador, Canada. Remember, this isn't just about mineral exploration. It's about national security. The Trump administration has declared it imperative to secure domestic supply chains for defense. The U.S. remains dangerously dependent on foreign sources. Around 80% of its rare earths come from abroad. To ensure long-term defense readiness, North America needs a new generational reserve. Saga Metals is currently finalizing a maiden resource of 100 million tons with a long-term conceptual target of over 1 billion tons. The Wolverine project could be a cornerstone of North America's secure supply of critical minerals for decades. I'll leave you with this. Saga's Wolverine project sits near the Voisey's Bay discovery, one of the most famous mining deals deals ever at over $4.3 billion. That deal is a perfect example of how a single discovery can transform a company. Early stage explorer, major discovery, multi-billion-dollar buyout. That's the kind of backdrop you're looking at here. Saga Metals is positioned in that same region with government mandates behind the sector, strong drill results, and a team executing year-round. In my view, the current valuation doesn't yet reflect the scale of what they're building. And with momentum accelerating, this is a story you need to be following closely. If you want to learn more about this critical mineral story, check out the link in the description, and a special thanks to Saga Metals for making today's video possible.
And Theo Von is basically just a Bernie Sanders leftist who does not like the censorious impulses of the left and engages in all the same conspiracy theories and, of course, is good friends with Candace Owens and all of the rest of it. And that's the guy that the vice president thinks that everybody should listen to. Now, listen, maybe the vice president thinks he has to kiss Theo Von's half-retarded ass in order to keep him in the coalition, and that's his political calculation. I think it's a bad political calculation. There's no politician who is fully capable of just picking up a prior president's coalition and then just carrying it forward. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton with Barack Obama. It's not going to work for J.D. Vance with Donald Trump. Just because Theo Von and Joe Rogan back Trump doesn't mean that they're going to get behind Donald Trump. They're going to get behind J.D. Vance. The reality is that the vice president's current coalitional strategy, I think, is deeply flawed. It is hard for me to see how he doesn't shrink President Trump's coalition across the board. But that's a political calculation. Maybe his is better than mine. It is certainly not a moral calculation.
Let's be honest here. Who got Trump elected? Who got Trump elected? In 2016, I mean, you have to look at people like Alex Jones, responsible for the rise of Donald Trump. You have to look at people like Tucker, who really helped create a popular narrative in the country that what America needed was something other than Hillary Clinton. You look at the most recent elections. I mean, who's responsible? Was it Ben Shapiro? Ben Shapiro? Who listens to Ben Shapiro? No one listens to Ben Shapiro. I don't know a single person. I've never met a single person in my life who says like, oh yeah, Jackson, you know, hey, you seem like a nice guy. I don't really listen to your stuff. I'm more of a Ben Shapiro guy. Never met a person like that. I've met one person who said that about the Young Turks, like, oh, I'm a Young Turks person. I like Cenk Uygur. And that was, you know, Cenk Uygur is much more normal now. He, you know, completely shifted his politics. So I understand that. Like, I think Cenk Uygur is very principled and good now on most issues, right? Doesn't really change the personal aspects, the personal history between Cenk Uygur and myself and Jimmy Dore and whatnot. But, you know, politically speaking, I'd have to say I agree with Cenk Uygur. No one listens. No one listens to Ben Shapiro. But he says, shame on J.D. Vance for saying Theo Von is a good podcaster or something. People should listen to him. I mean, most of Theo Von's content isn't even talking about politics. He'll invite on a firefighter, a garbage man, and talk about their daily lives. He invites on musicians, rappers, things like that. But just because like 1 out of 100 of Theo Von segments or videos are dedicated to the crushing demonic genocide in Gaza or the Epstein files or Iran or something like this, you know, for that reason alone, we have to say curse Theo Von or something. That's what J.D. Vance is saying here, or Ben Shapiro is saying here. And what's even more incredible about this whole thing is that we have to recognize Theo Von, you know, like him or not, Theo Von was responsible in part for Trump getting elected. I think one of the most personable moments I've ever seen from Trump, one of the most intimate moments I've ever seen from Trump, and I despise what Trump is doing. I think it's demonic. You could look at him and say Antichrist. Yes, strong argument to be made there. Objectively, one of the most personal moments Trump had at any time in his political career was when he sat down with Theo Von and he talked about his late brother, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, died of alcohol addiction. And Theo Von was talking about his prior cocaine and substance abuse addiction. Theo Von is one of the reasons why he got elected. And not just Theo Von, all the podcasters. Theo Von, Joe Rogan had him on. Tucker, of course, that was the most viewed interview in world history at that time when Tucker had him on, right? When it was supposed to be the debate night, but Trump went and, he did the interview with Tucker. How is it now that Trump is condemning these people as the greatest evils in our country? It's not only insane, it's not only ludicrous, and not only goes against what the principles of his movement was when he was running for office. It's just at its core disloyalty to the people who put him in that position. It's really incredible. But we now have a report from Mint Press News. Ben Shapiro is bleeding subscribers and views on YouTube at a staggering pace. He's been losing tens of thousands of subs monthly since the October 7th event, while total monthly views have cratered by roughly 85%. That's insane. His views have gone down 85%. His unwavering stance on Israel appears to have fractured his America First base, with figures like Tucker, Candace, and Nick Fuentes stepping in to capture that audience. Different message, different lane, and viewers are clearly choosing. Now,
with Barack Obama, it's not going to work for JD Vance with Donald.
He talks here at this part in the clip about, we have to choose who we associate with ourselves as MAGA, right? And Theo Von is not MAGA. What did Ben Shapiro, going back to that question about loyalty, what did Ben Shapiro do to get Trump elected? You could really hate the fact that Trump is the president right now, but look at this from a point of view of Trump himself. What did Ben Shapiro do? Ben Shapiro practically came out and endorsed Ron DeSantis in the last elections. In the 2016 elections, he opposed Trump. He was a never Trumper. And then he endorsed Ron DeSantis practically. But so that's MAGA now. Saying that's MAGA, the guy that endorsed Ron DeSantis. He's MAGA. He's, Trump orbit. But Theo Von, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace Owens, they're the villains. They're the villains. Candace Owens replied to this, said, that's because Ben doesn't actually create any content. He just complains about everyone else's. The market rejects a grown man crying daily about his competition. He's become the, quote, everyone who disagrees with me is Hitler meme. Couldn't have said it better myself. Candace Owens. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.